Yeah, trying to get this thing at the right angle. Let's see here. That's good. I don't know. I think I have like an hour of that. I had this idea like after I don't have a tripod, right? And I was like this afternoon, I was thinking, oh, I'll just do like a live stream while I'm doing this at the same time, but then like actually getting it.
Next time tell me I can.
Oh.
I have one I can.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just didn't think of it. But I should have asked someone. Okay.
I have both. I have a tiny one and then a tall one as well.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate that you're coming and that I get to meet some new people that I haven't met before. And I just want to share with you a little bit about what inspired me to do these workshops and get started on this path of eating in this way. And really what started it was I woke up one day 176 pounds. And this was after eating a whole foods diet, primarily vegetarian. Okay, so a lot of lentils, rice, a lot of dal. Dal was like my favorite food. And at this point in my life, I was 36 years old. So I kind of hit that like thing that happens to women hormonally, like a little early, right? Like compared to most people, it's like, when you hit your 40s, that's when women start to notice that, oh, the weight is creeping up on them. But I literally woke up obese at the age of 36. And the reason I say I feel like I woke up like that was because it happened in less than 2 months. And I really didn't see it happening. At this time, I was wearing like clothes that were really loose, and I didn't feel like anything getting tight. I was really, really disconnected from my body, like completely up in my head, a workaholic, right? Because of just having problems with my relationship, and just, it's just that time in your life when you're getting out there, building things. Okay, so I was working a lot, and basically what happens when you are in a state of stress like that is you have high cortisol, and that stimulates insulin, which leads to insulin resistance. So even if you are eating a whole foods diet and it's all healthy foods, the natural carbohydrates that are in that can keep your blood sugar going crazy, even if you're eating foods that are full of fiber, right? So we don't think of that as being unhealthy, eating rice, eating quinoa, grains, whole grains, that's what we're told to eat, right? So I literally, one day, I was at my mom's house, and I don't have a scale at this time in my life, so I just only would ever get on the scale when I was at someone else's house or my mom's house. So I got on the scale, and it said 176 pounds. And my self-concept of myself was that I was 155 pounds, because after having babies, I had never lost that extra baby weight. I just kind of thought, oh, I'll just accept that. I'll have to settle for that. And I never thought that there could be something physiologically wrong with my body, because I was a health nut, right? I was eating whole foods. So it just made zero sense to me. And I figured, well, I guess this is just what women have to accept after they have babies. So I just kind of let that go, that 155. But when I hit the 176, I saw it on the scale, and I literally felt the blood like leave my internal organs and go to my extremities. I went into fight or flight. And I sat at the dining room table, and I could literally, how in the movies when people, they show when somebody they're reeling, right? They've heard some bad news. That's what it was like. I could feel like people were talking, and it was it sounded like, because my brain was Rolodexing. It was trying to figure out what on earth just happened. How could this be possible? How could I be 176 pounds? I was just totally in shock. And imagine being that disconnected from your body, that you gained that much weight, literally clinically obese at my height, 5'3" and 3/4, and I didn't notice, right? So anyways, that night I get home, and my cousin posts a picture of myself and her and my brother on Facebook, and I literally untag myself from it because I'm so ashamed of my body. I just can't even believe it, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to be seen, right? Put on top of that I'm supposed to be a role model in the community, right? People are looking to me for health advice, and I'm obese suddenly, right? So of course, when you're a nutritionist, people judge you for things like that. So I was just like, oh my God, I didn't even know what to do. So basically, I had to figure out, how does a person go from eating a whole foods vegetarian diet, which primarily vegetarian at this point. I was experimenting with some meat because I had learned about traditional foods from the Weston A. Price organization, but I was hardly eating any of it because I had already been a vegetarian since my early 20s, and it was really hard for me to make any transition to include those foods in my diet. So what I did was I just started to research to see, like, what is it that triggered this weight gain. And what I found out was that in the combination with stress, right? The stress of being a workaholic, the stress of having a troublesome relationship, the stress of just being a mom, right? It's like 24/7, it never stops, right? Running a business, all of it, everything at the same time, that causes your insulin to go up because of the constant high cortisol that you would be experiencing. Plus, on top of it, if you happen to not be fully Caucasian, and I'm AT, any person who is not fully white is going to have a tendency towards being susceptible to insulin resistance. Okay? My biological father is an insulin injecting diabetic, so I have the hereditary tendency. So when you then, on top of it, have something go off in your life, that's when you express that tendency, right? So I learned that insulin resistance is the reason most people cannot lose weight. You can be white and still have insulin resistance. In fact, 1 in 3 people, and this is according to the Diabetes Association, 1 in 3 people in Canada have insulin resistance. Okay, so why is this important? Is because when you have insulin resistance, that means that you never go into fat burning mode because your insulin is always high. So even if you're eating the perfect diet, okay, and probably eating how people tell you the perfect diet is, like, look at the Canada Food Guide, right? It's like full of grains, like so many grains. So all these healthy foods, people don't realize, if you have insulin resistance, are not healthy. Okay? And if you can't lose weight, it's a really good chance that you have this problem. Now, some people have insulin resistance and they're thin. So it doesn't mean that you don't have insulin resistance. You can still have that problem and have, like, blood sugar surges and stuff like that and still be thin. So it's not the only reason. But if you cannot lose weight, you're not going into fat burning mode. Why is that? Because insulin is our fat storage hormone. So if you keep stimulating that all day, you just never burn fat, even if you're eating super healthy foods. Okay. So I'm just gonna hand out some notes so you guys can take notes on this talk. Okay. So I want you to relax about, don't worry about, getting every single thing I say, okay? At the end of the night, I'm gonna be giving you some notes, okay? But we're gonna do a little trade. There's a feedback form at the back of the notes. When you give that back to me at the end of the night, then I'm gonna give you the notes from the talk. So you don't have to, catch every little thing I say. It's all in there. There you go. All right. So what I'm going to teach you tonight is some tips for how to let go of the weight. Okay. So the title of this talk is "Have Your Cake and Eat It Too."
Do you have pens in there, Sherry?
I do. Sorry about that, guys. Thanks, Lisa.
No worries.
Guess that would help. You got some? Oh, you guys all have it. You're welcome. If you'd like, I can grab you some books. Here's something for you. Oh, and here, this is like a book from the 70s. This is called Calonetics. It's the exercise for people who don't like exercise. And that is one of the things that is people love about the Delish diet is you don't have to exercise to lose weight. It does help in certain contexts, but in some contexts it doesn't help. And actually, as I became more and more in balance, then I had less aversion to exercise. And I started actually with Calonetics. And now my exercise is burlesque classes here in Kelowna, which are awesome. If anybody's interested, you should join. I'll do a little plug for Femme Fatale. Okay, there we go. And 2 more. You're welcome. Sorry. Here, I'll use you. Get some good books. Good book recommendations now. You're welcome. Okay. So let's look at why your body might want to be fat. Okay? Yeah, because really, there's reasons why what conventional advice tells you to do is not working. Okay? And for those of you that are here because you're health conscious and you don't have any weight to lose, okay, this is all beneficial for your overall health. Okay, so when you get your blood sugar balanced, you just feel better. You have more energy. Okay, so you don't have to be overweight or need to lose weight to benefit from what you're going to learn tonight. So one of the problems with dieting is that it slows your metabolism even more. Right? Every single time you go on a diet and you restrict calories, your body thinks it's starving. And then it will work to hold on to fat. Okay. So
Alex.
Oh, it's Alex being cute.
Here?
Oh, I know all these people. One of the things that your body will do is if it goes into nutritional deficiency, it thinks that you're starving, right? That's famine. So therefore, we must hold on to every little bit of fat we can. Okay. So it won't let you burn it off. Some people get to the point where they've been dieting for so long that they don't diet anymore for the point of losing weight. They diet just to maintain the weight and just not gain anymore, right? That's a sign that your body has gone into, you want to go in there? You go into mommy's messy rooms. That is a major problem, right? Like, imagine living your life like that, where you're, like, okay, think about it this way. Do you know people who eat a lot of food and are skinny? And then, you know some other people who work out 5 days a week and hardly eat anything? Okay, if calories were the reason why the one person was overweight and the other was thin, that doesn't make any sense. It's not very logical. So there has to be some other reason besides calories. Whereas what you're learning out there is that you need to restrict calories to lose weight, right? But that doesn't work if your hormones aren't in balance. And that's the specific thing here, why this is so essential for people who've been struggling with their weight for a long time. And you're supposedly doing all the right things, right? You're exercising like crazy. Maybe you are restricting calories, but why isn't it working for you? It's because of insulin resistance and hormonal imbalance. Insulin resistance actually triggers the hormonal imbalance. Okay, so what worked for you at 20 when you didn't have a hormone imbalance? Because at 20, when you haven't been dieting for so long and your hormones aren't screwed up from doing that, you can actually lose weight by restricting calories and over-exercising, right? You can. We all could. But then when you have that shift come and you go into this hormonal space, that doesn't work anymore. So then we have that person who's like running 5, 6, maybe even every single day of the week and restricting calories, not losing a pound. Why is that happening? Because they are in such a high state of cortisol that the exercise now becomes another stress for them. So the exercise is actually making it worse. So for some people, actually part of their path of letting go of the weight is to slow down on that exercise, right? To do something that is not going to stress their body. Okay, I gave you a great example, like Kalinetics. It's very gentle. Yoga, swimming, easier things, right? Not running at aerobics. Or maybe taking a break entirely. For some people, that's what they need to do because they just need to stop being in a high state of cortisol so that their body can not think that it's in danger anymore. And then it can relax and heal and then let go of the weight. Exercise is not a huge part of it. The bigger part of it is actually your diet, which is what I'm going to tell you about today. Okay, so you can actually lose weight without having to exercise. Of course, you should move your body, right? Like, I'm not saying you should be a couch potato, but I'm saying you don't have to exercise in this context like I have to go somewhere to exercise, right? There's things that you can do that are movement, that are natural, that are not going to stress your body. Okay. So, what other stresses could possibly keep your cortisol high? So, unfulfilled expectations in life, right? Especially by the time you get to the age where hormones go off, right? You get 40 and you're like, oh my God, I thought this would be my life. And instead you're divorced, or you are, you found out that you hate what you do and you need to have a career change and start from scratch again, or who knows, right? These are like major stresses that people experience. Of course, the malnourishment, not getting enough nutrition, your body going into starving mode, toxic elements from either the food you're eating, that is a stress on your body, maybe the personal care products that are going on your body. These are not only toxic to your liver, which regulates your metabolism and helps your thyroid to function optimally, but your fat cells will hold on to the fat with the toxins that you've taken in through your skin. And it doesn't want to let those fat toxins go because your liver is not happy and is not going to be able to detoxify that. So it'll slow down your ability to burn fat. And it happens to be estrogenic, right? All of those toxins, they are estrogens, which cause hormonal imbalance, which then also makes it really difficult to lose weight. So all these things are interrelated. And this is really, really important because the way we're just taught about how the body works is everything is in isolation, like we're a machine with like separate parts. But actually, your entire overall picture of health is what is impacting your body's ability to let go of weight. Okay, so what we're actually doing with the Delish diet is we are balancing your hormones, we are balancing your blood sugar, and that is allowing your body to go back into balance. And once your body's in balance, it's like, well, I don't need this weight anymore. So it'll just naturally let it go. It's not like a fad diet where we force it off quickly and gain it all back, right? I don't know, I looked it up recently, statistic-wise, it's like something like 97% of dieters fail. But when you think about it, diets are actually created to be temporary, to get you a quick fix, right? You're not supposed to stay on them forever. But then if you go off them, you just gain the weight back. That's like that insanity thing, right? Like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? To go on a diet. So you want to do something that you can actually maintain for life. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing more and more about this and why it is maintainable for life, and also to just help you understand that weight loss is permanent works different than fad diets. Fad diets give you instant results, right? Then they don't work very long, right? You hit plateaus and then you're like, how long can I stay on this? And then you quit, and then you go back to your old way until you get your willpower up again to do it again. But you can't maintain it. So if it's not a long-term approach, then you're not going to have long-term results. This is a long-term approach. The long-term approach, though, this is what people have the hardest time with. When you are overweight and you want to lose weight and you want to stay off, it's going to happen the exact opposite of how a fad diet works. Fad diet, lose weight really quick. Gain it really bad, really quick, okay? A diet that is actually shifting your physiology and would actually give you permanent results, you actually lose weight slowly in the beginning. And then the closer you get to your ideal weight, the quicker it drops off. It happens the opposite, which is why most people can't get themselves to do it, because they think that the only way to lose weight is this calorie restricting deprivation diets, and they can't imagine doing that long enough to get permanent results or ever wanting to stay on that diet, okay? Which is exactly why this approach is totally doable forever. And I started this 5 years ago, okay? I wasn't size 4 3 years ago, okay? 5 years ago is when I was 176. This has been a slow process, right? This last year, I went from size 6 to size 4 in this last year. But, you know, a year before that, I was 8, I was 10, right? This didn't happen overnight. And in fact, actually, it was funny because when I looked at it, because I saw that picture again, that I mentioned that my cousin posted, and I looked at the date, and I was like, wow, I have been on this journey for 5 years. But if you just met me, you would think, oh, I must have done like, you know, something like The Biggest Loser and did a 3-month thing and like burnt it off in like 6 months, and then, you know, a year later, you're back up again, right? So that is the biggest challenge, to get your mind around how permanent weight loss happens, and to just relax and accept that there are other things that you can gauge besides your weight to know that you're moving towards your ideal weight. So for example, I went from size 6 to size 4 without losing pounds. How is that possible? Because weight is not always indicative of changes in your body fat ratios. You actually sometimes just move fat, right? Like literally, your clothes feel looser, you get on the scale, you still weigh the same. Or you get on the scale, you still weigh the same, but suddenly you're like, oh, I got curves, I didn't have curves before, right? Your body weight actually shifts, so there's other things that you have to look for and signs that you're getting healthier. For example, I have a woman in one of my programs who it took, I think, almost 9 weeks before she actually experienced the experience of what it feels like to have normal blood sugar. Like 9 weeks. It took that long for her body to get back into balance, right? So there, you know, every single person is different. Once she got that, then she got to experience the feeling of not being hangry, for example, not having to snack all the time. Okay, actually, you know, at this point, if I don't eat food, guess what I experience? Nothing, except for my stomach growling, right? Whereas when I had hypoglycemia, I couldn't go for a hike without taking snacks. In fact, I'd go in and I'd be like, we gotta go back home because I need to get something to eat. I had to snack, you know, all the time. Food was like this major thing because if I didn't have it, I'd feel shaky, I'd feel moody, I'd feel tired. You get that weird like tongue thing where it's like you're buzzing or your hands buzz. Okay, that is not good. That is a sign of hypoglycemia. People don't go from being perfectly healthy one day to suddenly overnight becoming diabetic. This is a gradual process, and it starts off with these hypoglycemic symptoms, right? For some people, it doesn't get much past that except for they stay hypoglycemic and they stay overweight, but they don't get diabetic, thankfully, okay? But why not have optimal blood sugar so you can feel good all the time, so you can have energy? Okay, so let's look at some of the symptoms that you might have if you had high blood sugar or hypoglycemia, meaning it's going up and down, right? Which is why it triggers food cravings, makes it really hard to actually maintain healthy eating when your blood sugar is crashing and the thing that actually brings you back to balance really quickly is sugar, okay? That's not real balance, that's just like dealing with the issue in the moment, but putting off the solution, which is to actually achieve optimal blood sugar balance by eating the right foods and attending to those emotional stresses in your life as well, ideally, right? But you know, you can get really far with actually just changing your lifestyle, because it is one of, and your diet, because those are two major stresses that cause high cortisol and insulin resistance. Okay, so you might have low energy, feel moody or frustrated a lot, have digestive and elimination issues, inflammation and pain in your body, a lack of libido, your hair, skin, and nails will dry out and become lackluster. Sometimes women start to lose their hair in the male baldness pattern. Cystic acne and large pores. That was a thing that I found really interesting because I always had large pores since I was a teenager. And I had no idea until I started doing this research and figuring out what I need to do. That was actually a sign of insulin resistance. Pretty interesting. Feeling puffy, bloated, and frumpy and fat. Okay. These are signs of a hormonal imbalance is triggered by high cortisol, triggering high insulin. Okay, so it's a little pattern that happens. So stress, stress, emotional stress, physical stresses in your environment, high high cortisol, then high insulin, and then it throws off all of your hormones because insulin is a hormone. So then you can have too much estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone. That's another issue with women. Okay, and it's also because we tend to be less active and we lose muscle tone and then we lose testosterone. And there's, your sleep patterns and whether you drink enough water and your diet and the other hormones are all interrelated with that. Okay, but still, the diet gurus are telling you that you just don't have enough willpower, that you're lazy, you just need to be more disciplined. You're eating too much, you need to control your portions, right? You need to count fat, calories, protein. You need to write down every single thing you eat and become obsessed with what you're eating to actually lose weight and maintain it. And of course, the Canada Food Guide with all of its recommendations for so many grains is a disaster for people with insulin resistance. And that should change, right? If 1 in 3 people in Canada are insulin resistant, then we probably don't need to be eating that many servings of grains. Now, there's a whole other discussion about this. I want you to remember that if, I'm talking here, a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you are for people with hormonal imbalance. They're for people with high insulin resistance, hypoglycemia. Okay, if a person can eat healthy whole grains, okay, if they're on a standard North American diet, but it's the best that they can do with good quality foods as much as possible, not the processed foods, but let's say bread that's whole wheat. I mean, these are good things, right? They're better than eating junk food. So I just want to be clear that I'm speaking to a imbalance, right? If you don't have that imbalance, if your blood sugar's fine, you can eat wheat, right? You can eat grains and you won't gain weight and you'll feel fine. But if you have insulin resistance or hormonal imbalances or digestive issues, then what I'm saying is relevant. Okay, so I just want to make sure, because sometimes when I tell people dietary recommendations that are for health imbalances, it becomes this thought we have to all eat like this, and we all have to eat like this forever, right? But it's actually the strategy of the Delish diet is to actually bring your health back into balance. So it's not about having to eat perfect Delish diet way for the rest of your life. If you actually heal your issue, if your blood sugar is in balance, then you should be able to take a couple days off. You should be able to have a couple days a week where you're eating bread and pasta and not reverse everything and go back in the other direction, right? So it's really about actually healing. Okay? But most people do eat too many carbohydrates and too many processed foods and too much sugar in the North American diet. Okay? So all of what I'm saying is actually relative. It would be different talking to each one of you. If I was actually watching what you eat and I was in your kitchen, then I would be able to actually say how relevant this is to you. But at this point, I don't know. Okay, but if you have these symptoms of insulin resistance and you're trying to lose weight, then it's definitely relevant. Okay. Okay, so let's think about it this way. When you're overweight, it is a symptom. Okay, our society tells you that you should lose weight to get healthy. That is so not the case. Okay, just because you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy, right? It's the opposite. You get healthy to lose weight. But how many people are say for example, they go to the doctor and they get diagnosed with heart disease or hypertension or metabolic disease or diabetes. They're told you need to lose weight to be healthier, right? Well, the recommendations, unfortunately, that are given to them are for foods that are not natural, foods that are refined, like refined fats, margarines, all these things that have that health check on them. Okay, they're usually made with refined oils. That is not a health food. Okay, that's a very processed food. Don't have time to go into that. Okay, but in my courses I go into deep detail about choosing the quality of the fats that you eat, because this is a diet in which there's an unlimited amount of fat that you can eat based on your uniqueness. So I don't tell you how much of anything, okay? You're gonna have to figure that out for yourself using your intuition, following your body, but I give you guidelines, okay? So it's not a certain amount of fat, but what's really important is the quality of the fats that you eat in this program. They should all be natural, the fats that your ancestors ate, that you have evolved to know how to digest and assimilate. Not these industrialized fats. Okay, I just can't help it, I have to say one thing about these fats. Okay, so canola oil. Did you know that canola oil is from a plant called rapeseed that is not even fit for humans? It is toxic to humans. And so it had to be modified to eliminate that toxic ingredient, okay? Then they called it Canada oil. And then it became the brand canola oil. So I'm pretty sure that nature, God, the universe did not put that on the planet for humans to eat in copious amounts and make margarine out of. And then that's a whole other story, right? Of all the different ways that these foods are processed. Right? You can take a healthy oil, you turn it into like a margarine product, now it's been so denatured that it's a toxin to your body, to your liver. Hi, Alex. Okay, so the quality of the fat makes a big deal. But here's the first major weight loss tip, is that if you want to lose weight, you need to balance your blood sugar. That just has to happen. All right, so the next thing is how do you eat? Okay, timing-wise, to be able to access stored fat. So you want to eat a diet that's based on natural whole foods, okay, that is low in concentrated sources of carbohydrates. So those carbohydrates that I'm talking about are the whole grains and starchy vegetables. They're very high in what's considered digestive sugar. So most people think to themselves, well, I don't understand why or how I can be hypoglycemic because I don't even eat sugar. Okay, even if you don't eat one drop of maple syrup or coconut sugar or unrefined sugar or honey, if you're eating really starchy vegetables like potatoes, yams, and breads and things like that, you are eating sugar. Okay, as far as your body is concerned, it does not care what you call the carb. It breaks down into sugar. Okay, sugar is what stimulates insulin. So everybody thinks that when they eat fat, they're going to get fat, but actually, when they eat sugar, they're going to get fat. Sugar makes you fat, not fat. In fact, fat helps you to feel satiated, which means you naturally start to eat less over time once you've filled up your stores, because we really need these fats. They help us to have a higher metabolism. They feed our endocrine system so that it can work better, right? You need your thyroid working optimally to have a higher metabolism. So you want to bring your sugar down, and you want to bring up your fat, and you want to keep your protein in a good ratio, okay? Which is, there's not a lot of argument out there on protein needs. Most diets would tell you, other than the Atkins diet, that you should have a moderate amount of protein. Okay, that's really important for your hormones, really balancing for your hormones, and this is often an issue where women are deficient because we like salads and vegetables and more vegetarian foods typically, and not so much like, meat, right? So it's usually more of an issue that women become deficient in protein because they're either just not eating enough in general, like not enough calories, right? Skipping breakfast and things like that, which is important to understand that it's necessary to eat that meal when you're trying to get in balance, because you need to restore nutrients. So you don't want to skip breakfast. Once you are fully nourished, okay, and your blood sugar is not balanced or is balanced, you can go without breakfast and it's not going to throw your hormones off because you're eating so many good nutrient-dense foods for breakfast or for lunch and supper that you're good. Okay, so we eat more food in the beginning because we have to restore our nutrition that we've been missing. Okay, over time you're gonna not really always feel like you want to eat 3 meals a day. And if you think of like primally, okay, where would we ever in a natural setting, be able to eat 3 whole meals a day with like a bunch of variety, right? Like the reason we do that, I think, is because our society has set us up to do that by telling us we need to eat this really high in starchy carbs, standard North American diets full of processed foods, makes us insulin resistant. And now to just cope with our blood sugar, we're constantly eating to keep it in balance. But once you get in balance, this is why one of the things that is so unique about this program is I'm never going to tell you to restrict how much you eat. Okay, I'm going to say follow your body. But over time, you're just going to start eating less, right? And it's because you're fully nourished. And you don't need to constantly be stimulating insulin by eating carbs all day, right? So how do we eat timing-wise? We keep our carbs at meals. This is not a low-carb diet, okay? So it's not a ketogenic diet either. People get very confused about this because I talk about high fat. It's a specific kind of carbohydrate diet. So there are lots of carbs that you can eat on this diet, and they're all naturally low in carbs, but you can eat as much as you want of them because your body is never going to get you binging on cauliflower, for example, right? If you have a potato, turn that into French fries, and now it's like something you want to just like keep eating, right? And you tend to overeat. But the non-starchy vegetables don't have that effect on people. They're naturally lower in natural carbohydrates. So you decide how much carbohydrates you eat based on those types of vegetables. So you can never, as long as you're following your body, you can never go too low carb. One of the problems with going on say a ketogenic diet or a low carb diet on purpose where you're counting carbs and trying to keep them low is that some people throw off their adrenals and their thyroid. And then they end up not being able to lose weight, even though they're eating a low-carb diet, because they are in a state of stress. And their body is now holding on to fat because they're eating too low-carb, okay? So that does not happen on this program because there is no counting of carbs, okay? So there's a specific type of vegetables. I'm going to actually pass around a little thingy for you, so that you can see what this looks like. What some of these non-starchy vegetables are. So for example, we've got radish, mushrooms, spinach, romaine, cucumber, celery, pepper, cauliflower, and broccoli. And you can see if you were to eat a cup of each of those, how many teaspoons of natural sugar, being carbohydrates, are in there. Most of them are 2 or less. At any time, you don't need any more than a teaspoon of sugar in your blood. So if you eat more than that, then you will stimulate insulin because you've eaten sugar and insulin has to push it down, right? So anytime you go and eat foods that are beyond that, those types of, that naturally keeps your carbs low without you having to think about it, right? But also gives you the freedom to eat as much as you want in case your thyroid or adrenal on any given day is like, I need more carbs today to feel healthy. And you can literally follow your body. So if you need 1 teaspoon of sugar in your bloodstream, but you are eating something like, let's see, let's go for something that's usually surprising to people. So like, how many people like to have a cup of corn? Could you eat a cup of corn at supper? Yeah, 25 teaspoons of natural sugar in it, right? So if you're trying to burn fat, that's not going to happen because your insulin is going to get stimulated. Baked potatoes, 12 teaspoons of sugar. Chickpeas are 9 teaspoons of sugar. Brown rice is 9. Yams are 8 teaspoons. A cup of quinoa is 8 teaspoons. Lentils, 8 teaspoons. Okay, those are a lot of the foods I was eating when I was on my healthy whole foods vegetarian diet, right? So this is why I could not lose weight, despite eating this healthy whole foods diet, because I had insulin resistance. I just thought it was hypoglycemia, which I didn't think of as being a big deal, even though as a nutritionist, most people walk around just thinking hypoglycemia is their personality. They really think it's their personality. I'm just hangry, I'm just moody, I'm just, whatever, it causes you to be like, right? Which is a problem, because a lot of times people self-identify personality traits and it's just not even them, right? It's really just their physiology being out of balance, making them moody or making them tired. So that's just a little list of those foods. You can just see which ones. And then if you compare that to the non-starchy vegetables, you can see how if you stick with those types of carbohydrates, you'll just never go into like major stimulation of insulin, right? And even though, you know, if a person isn't overweight, they don't have hypoglycemia, this is still a better way to eat, right? It's still easier on your body because it's just less inflammatory, right? Because a lot of these things cause inflammation. Then maybe you don't have, maybe you're not overweight, but maybe you have joint problems, right? Or maybe you're moody, or maybe your stomach hurts a lot, right? This approach actually helps to heal your gut. So this is another reason why it helps people to get healthy, right? So you know, I'm promoting weight loss because that's what everybody wants, but actually with this program you get healthy, and then the weight loss is just a natural side effect of that, a good side effect. Okay, let's see what I covered or not. Just so you guys know, after we take a little break and we taste test the Skinny Bomb recipes, I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So anything that you're struggling with that you want to talk about specific to you, I'm going to cover, and the live stream will not be on anymore, so it's going to be private. Sorry, guys. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so what do you eat then in between meals, right? Because if you're hypoglycemic, you have to eat in between meals at first, at least, right? Because you have to deal with the fact that your blood sugar is not happy. So you want to eat foods that don't stimulate much insulin. So you keep your carbs at meals, and in between meals you eat things that are higher in fat or protein, because fat and protein do not stimulate your insulin very much. Fat, pretty much nothing, somewhat protein, but it's carbs that will stimulate insulin. So if you keep your carbs, even your non-starchy carbs at meals, and then eat your fat-rich or moderate protein foods in between if you have to snack, then your body can actually go in fat burning mode while you're in between meals, even if you're snacking. Okay. This is really, really helpful for people because you can't just necessarily go from what you're doing now to overnight shifting unless you like that, right? Like some people, they prefer like, let's go all the way, right, from the start. And then for others, it feels like you want to make a gradual change, right? So in the beginning, you still are eating your 3 meals a day. They're whole foods. You keep your carbs at your meals, and in between, you eat your high-fat foods, okay? If you can keep the protein at the meal too, that'd be better, and just have the fat in between. And that's why we use Skinny Bombs in this program, okay? So basically, Skinny Bombs is something I coined based on the sort of all the rage in the keto movement, which is, they're called fat bombs, right? They're treats made of fat, and they are sweetened with things like erythritol, which is fermented sugar, and stevia, and now monk fruit is another thing that's out in the market that doesn't stimulate insulin, so you can still have treats in between meals. Okay, I just coined it Skinny Bombs for the Delish diet because people are afraid of fat, right? And let's not think that eating those are going to make you fat. They're actually going to make you skinny. So that's why I call them Skinny Bombs. So, you know, one of the things you can think, like putting it into a context of like, you know, say buying a cookbook, you could use a ketogenic cookbook on this diet, but you're just not going to restrict your carbs that are the ones that are allowed on the program, which are your non-starchy carbs. Okay, so you can, you know, the recipes are all out there. Of course, I have a lot in my program as well. All of my favorites. Okay, so one little thing that is also really important to know is that if you eat too much protein, that will also turn into sugar because your body only needs a certain amount of protein at any one time. So you overeat protein and you think to yourself, well, this isn't sugar, so I shouldn't have any problem with my blood sugar, or, you know, it's not going to cause me to gain weight. It's mostly protein. Say if you eat, you know, meat, too much meat. On the Delish diet, we think of meat as a condiment. It's not central to our meals, okay? Which is totally different than the standard North American diet, which typically overeats protein and it becomes inflammatory and it's associated with all these health problems. It's not meat that's the problem. It's the quality of the meat, first of all, okay, and the quantity that people eat. So, you know, you have to put everything into the right context. So you want to eat meat like a condiment at your meals. Eat your Skinny Bombs in between meals so you can burn fat. When you eat whole foods and get enough protein and get enough fat at your meals, and only eat primarily fats in between meals, it's no problem to go into fat mode, even if you snack and you even snack before bedtime, right? This is another thing that people love to do, and on other diets you can't do. Okay, but after 4 or 6 o'clock, you're not eating carbs, and you're eating a skinny bomb made with coconut oil, you're still gonna stay in fat burning mode, right? So you don't have to fight against yourself, which is why this is maintainable. That is the key. It's the treats, right? And in the beginning, when you haven't eaten a lot of fat up to this point, because maybe you were avoiding it because you heard it was not healthy, or you were trying to avoid it because you thought that it would help you lose weight, you are likely in a deficit of good quality fats. And then what that causes is for you, when you first start the Delish diet, you eat tons of skinny bombs to be able to handle the fact that you're not eating grains, right? Because we take a break from grains. For a while, it's not forever. Although once you can have a life without them for a while, I'm just going to show you. It's just not a big deal anymore. I actually prefer not to eat them, but if I go to a restaurant or whatever, or someone's house, I will. So I'm just going to hand out this little picture. These are all the things that you would think that you would miss out on if you were to let go of grains that you can make, that are made with seed flours and coconut flour and nut flours. Okay, these are much lower carb than your wheat or rice and all these different alternative flours that are out there. They're actually higher in carb, right? So you make something with chickpea flour. It may not be wheat. It may not have gluten in it, but it's super high in carbs, right? So, we want to stick to the ones that are lower in carbs. We do the coconut and nuts and seeds. So you can have anything that you could imagine. There's waffles on there. There's donuts on there. Oh, what else is on there? We have like coconut wraps for melted things. We have bread. There's crackers. Anything you want, you can still have, right? You just need to know how to make it with those types of flours. And it's just a lifestyle change, essentially, right? And then, like I said, on the weekends, or you want to go to a family gathering, I actually encourage what's called an eat-up day, where you do that on purpose. It's another way of making sure that you don't go too low carb, and we don't put your thyroid and your adrenals at risk from going low thyroid or going low carbohydrate, because that's the major issue, right? A lot of people, when they go on these low carb diets, or keto, they don't do it properly, number one, and it needs supplementation, and they don't take the supplements. Then they end up with health problems later because they're not doing it right. If you do it right, then that's a totally different story. But most people don't, right? They just read something on the internet, and they just try it out, and you can hurt yourself. And I have had conversations with people who have, over time, hurt their thyroid by doing that. So that is one of the things that is, really great about this program, is you are encouraged to use these guidelines with all your intuition. So you're never going to feel like, oh, I can't have something. You ask yourself, how can I make this doable? This thing I want to eat, right? And anything, almost anything that you like now that you think you'd have to give up to be healthy or go on a diet and lose weight, we can make a whole foods version of that. That is going to be lower in carbs naturally, so it doesn't stimulate insulin. You can still have your cake and eat it too, and that's why this is called the have your cake and eat it too chat, or whatever, talk. I kept calling it something, and I was like, I don't know, it's like I keep wanting to say webinar. So I spend too much time teaching on the internet that even when I'm with people, it's like, what is this called? This is a talk. Okay. So I am going to say now would be a really good time, actually, to take a little break, because I see that Lisa's moving around, so I'm guessing it's close to, we've been an hour. So what I'm going to do is turn off the live stream, and then we are going to taste test some of these skinny bomb recipes that you can eat. And even like, you don't even have to want to lose weight. Like, say you're a mom and you just want to feed your kids healthier, and you don't want to feed them sugar that makes them hyperactive and causes them to crave more sugar, and then, be filling in their nutrition with processed foods. This is a way of letting them still have treats by using these alternative sweeteners that are not synthetic. They are from natural sources, and allowing them to have the pleasure, right? Without them having to go off the wall, right? Or get sick because of the effect of white sugar on your immune system. It actually depletes your white blood cells down to the level of a leukemia patient for 4 hours every time you eat white sugar. So this is probably why after Christmas and after Halloween and all these holidays, people always get sick after, right? Because they're literally depleting their immune system and making it susceptible to colds and flus. So it's a great way to learn how to just live your life for not just ourselves, but for our whole family. And just to finish off with this idea of lifestyle, the Delish diet is a lifestyle, it's a way of life. It doesn't work instantly, although we do have a cleanse. So if you want to lose weight quickly in the beginning, you can lose 10 to 15 pounds depending on what stage of the cleanse you do. It's the only safe way to lose weight quickly, right? Because it literally is allowing your liver to catch up on everything, all the toxins. Then your fat cells will actually release fat. And also, because it's so hypoallergenic naturally, it heals your gut, you just lose a lot of water, right? A lot of people are not as heavy as they think they are. They're just carrying a lot of water, okay? That's a healthy way to do it, and it's permanent because you've actually shifted your physiology and changed how your liver is operating. It's not like a fad diet where you can get it off really quickly and it's from major exercise restricting calories, because that's going to come back right away, okay? As long as you stay clean, right? You don't then go back and eat all these toxic foods and put all these chemicals on your body, you're actually going to maintain that weight loss. You're not going to go backwards. Okay, that's actually how I lost the first 16 pounds. When I first ended up 176, I went on basically a gut healing diet that got all the inflammation down. Okay, so I went from 176 down to 163 by literally eating non-starchy vegetables and one carb eat up day a week for I don't know, it's 2.5 weeks, and it just really came off really quickly. But obviously that's not maintainable for life, right? That's a cleanse. You don't do that all the time. So you want to find something that is something you can maintain, your way of life, and actually follow what diet really means, which it comes from the Greek word dieta, which means way of life. And this is something totally doable that you can do. And you're going to find out when we stop and try these skinny bombs, you're going to find out that actually you can eat more pleasurably and more decadent than you're eating now and still lose weight and get your ideal weight and be healthier than you've ever been.